Alright friends, welcome back again to another episode of Tactical Enlightenment, and we continue to cover underrated troops in Bannerlord. In this episode, this will be effectively considered part 2. We will cover the Savage Valandian Sharpshooter again. Alright friends, welcome back again to another episode of Tactical Enlightenment. This YouTube channel is dedicated to all things Bannerlord, but especially Advanced Field Command and Battlefield Tactics. And in this episode, this continuation of our episode covering the Valandian Sharpshooters, we are going to have a series of exhibitions here. We are going to be testing out the ferocious power of these sharpshooters versus other elite units in the game. I recognize these are not the most dynamic battles, but I know there's a lot of testing out there that sort of shows the inferiority of certain units in the game, and I'm here to sort of show otherwise, right? Especially with the use of tactics. Now, in standard battles, you know, 500 against Battanian Fiend Champs and Battanian Fiends and other units, they get mauled, right? We all know that. The tests are out there. You can go take a look for yourself. What we're going to here, though, show you is the differences, basically, of when you use intelligent tactics. Admittedly, you know, no matter what, when you do tactics against another unit, you have an edge, right? You can unbalance what is normally a fight that's fair, or perhaps tilt it in your favor in a fight where you are outnumbered or outgunned. That's exactly what we're going to do here today, but we're also going to be, I think, demonstrating the incredible versatility and power of these sharpshooters. So in this first exhibition here, I'm dividing the sharpshooters into 4 or 5 groups. I think I'll end up with 4, the 1st, 4th, 5th, and 6th. And part of the reason for that is flanking. The other part of the reason for that, though, is that I want to use at least one of these units potentially as defense. Now, in this first exhibition here, we're going to be pitting these 500 sharpshooters in this open field setting here against 500 Battanian Fiends and Battanian Fiend Champions. And more accurately, I should say 250 Battanian Fiend Champions and 250, well, I guess it's 249 Battanian Fiends, because the companion that's leading the army here on both sides takes away from one of the numbers. So why is this interesting? Well, this is the tier 6 Battanian Fiend Archer. Half of their army is composed of this incredibly elite archer. They're, you know, I don't need to add to the heaps of videos out there showing how elite the Battanian Fiend Champs are. And this is against solely a tier 5 crossbowman from Valandia, right? In theory, this should be a no chance, right? A no contest. But there's a few things that I think are going to be in play here. First, we're doing a little wraparound tactics, so the tactics are going to help a little bit. But the other thing is the superior range of the sharpshooters, right? The Battanian Fiends are actually running far too close here at the beginning. In fact, this is probably more bad AI than it is actually effective range. But the Fiends in this case basically ran to within about 120 units before they even opened fire. So I don't even have to guess at the outcome of this. This is going to be a destructive battle for the sharpshooters, right? We probably scored 40 or 50 kills before the enemy even opened fire. Now, to make things worse, on this wraparound flank here, we're moving our units in, but I also have one of our divisions in a shield wall approaching the enemy, right? This is one of the things that the sharpshooters can do that no other archer really can do, and that is form this defensive knot, right? So now this line of guys in shields here is absorbing an enormous amount of arrows that would otherwise be killing targets, and of course be aimed at your units that are shooting. So in this case, we're effectively distracting the Battanian Fiend Champs while we work on them from the flank here, right? It's the destructive situation, and of course this would work in an open field battle against against the Battanians. Now, very rarely are people going to be running around with an army of 500 sharpshooters, but you might have 300 sharpshooters or 200 sharpshooters in your army, and then 200 infantry. As you can see from that demonstration, it's highly effective. Now let's try the supposedly impossible. Let's try 500 Battanian Fiend Champions against our sharpshooters. I know there's a lot of people just scoffing right now, saying, well, that's stupid, you're never going to win. But I think if we do some tactics here, if we do some distractionary shield walls, there's an outside chance that we can pull this off. And again, the same configuration before. We're using the 1st, 4th, 5th, and 6th. And again, I'm going to spread my units out. This, I think, also shows the value of multiple units, right? We're going to use multiple different divisions here in this battle. A lot of people use one division for their archers, and I just think there's a lot of weaknesses to that, and you don't have the ability to do some of the dynamic things that we're going to do here. So not a lot of intense details to this. This is exactly the same as before, right? We're just sort of spreading these guys out in a relative C shape, right? And that's because I want our units to have a little bit of an angle on the enemy as they run up to fire. You can see every single unit here we're facing is a Battanian Fiend Champ. But the other reason I'm setting up this C formation is I want some of these units to potentially, whoops, sorry about that. I want some of these units to potentially be able to form a shield wall and approach the enemy at approximate location. I want them to be the closest. That way they garner a lot of attention and thus also absorb a lot of arrows. Now, these incredibly big shields that the sharpshooters have are some of the best shields in the game for blocking arrows. It's a Pavis shield, I believe is the pronunciation of it. I think this is a French conception, and it's highly, highly effective. Again, the Battanian Fiend Champs probably ran a little too close before they opened fire, and admittedly, as the defender in this battle, we have a slight edge in that they have to come to us. Now, they've opened fire, all these nasty Battanian Fiend Champs, and they're scoring a bunch of kills, right? These guys have incredible high bow skill. They have incredible high damage with their bows. They have a lot of arrows, and everybody knows as well that their melee skills are outstanding. Now, our flanking effect here is having some benefit, right? These guys here on this corner are starting to rack up kills. You can see they're scoring more kills just based on the death spam and the amount of guys dead on that end of the line. Now we're going to start our blocking strategy. In comes this Valandian Sharpshooter Division. They're in shield wall. Now, they're not immune, right? These guys are still getting killed. You can see them dying, in fact. But that is absorbing an incredible amount of arrows and attention that would normally be going to the rest of our sharpshooters. I can already tell from the death spam that this is going to be somewhat close, but just like the last battle where we're like a snake sort of eating up the flank from the right, the same thing is happening here. The Battanian Fiend Champs are sort of trying to fill their line out onto this flank down here, their left flank, and it's not going particularly well for them. Our shield wall at this stage is gone, so we're going to move our next division up into a shield wall, right? We're just basically saying next in line, you guys are the next to turn into our absorbing shield walls. And again, just like before, hundreds of arrows are pounding these guys' shields. That said, it's a very effective way of sort of negating some of the deadly power of these Battanian Fiend Champs. So the Battanian Fiend Champs at this stage are actually starting to kite. They are starting to sort of move uphill there. And I suspect at some point or other we're going to have to try to chase them down. That presents some problems, right? Because they're going to be able to run and then shoot and then run and then shoot. So we're going to start the chase already, and we're going to alternate between line and shield wall. Right? At this stage, this battle is close enough that we can sort of move in for the kill. If they're trying to kite you almost like a dog sensing fear, you know that the enemy is not thrilled about what's going on, right? So they're physically moving away from you, and just like a dog chasing somebody who's running, we're going to chase. Now, I'm not just going to be strictly chasing in melee. Some of our units are still going to be shooting, but this shield wall moving in on the enemy is what we're going to be primarily focused on. Absorbing their arrows and closing the gap here. As you can see, they're down to 84. It looks like 84 sharpshooters, or Battanian Fiend Champs, rather. They just scored a bunch of kills there. Every time they shoot, right, they're going to do major damage. But at this stage, I think it's clear we have a numerical advantage, and now it's just a matter of sort of wrapping around them and finishing off this battle. See, some of these guys are shooting. When they're told to charge and they have ammunition, they will aggressively move up and shoot. And if they don't have, of course, if they don't have bolts, they will simply charge. I like to move them at shield wall. That won't stop the guys from shooting, but what that does is anybody who's out of arrows will run up with that barn door in front of them and block their way to the enemy. Now I think we will probably use a little fancy editing tool here, as this might take a little while here. They're clearly retreating up into the hills here, and I don't want to waste your time, so we'll probably use a little fast forward here in the after editing. All right, so let's speed this up here. This is the remains of the Battanian Fiend champs trying to hold off our sharpshooters here. I've set it to 3 times speed here, just so that you can sort of see the wrap-up of this battle. There is some chance that we still lose this. The Fiend champs are actually holding their composure better than I expected. You see some of their guys over there are routing. Oops, some of my units are attacking the guys that are routing. You don't ever want that to happen, right? Anytime that's happening, you want to divert them to the guys that are actually on the battlefield. Guys that are routing rarely turn around to fight. You want to focus on the guys that are still left. And we're just going to sort of chase these guys down here and finish off this battle. But in all reality, I think this battle is over. And incredibly, I did not expect to win, especially so decisively here against the Battanian Fiend champs. It does seem like, here, I can speed it up with this. It does seem like the Battanian Fiend champs are running in too closely before they open fire, but nevertheless, that's the system, right? If that's the system in the game, we'll take advantage of it. And as you can see, this is a destructive victory for us. All right, so we were able to put down Battanian Fiend champs and Battanian Fiends, including 500 Battanian Fiend champs. That startled me with how easy we were able to do that. Now let's try Khazate, right? Everybody is well aware of the thunderous power of the Khazate horse archers. And again, here, the experiment is going to be the Tier 5 sharpshooter against the Tier 5 and Tier 6 Khazate horse archer, right? That's their, I think it's Keshig or something like that, the pronunciation. And they have, of course, their Khans guards. Now, I just chose this battlefield at random, and I'm going to look for an opportune location here. It doesn't mean we're just going to line up in the absolute worst spot. I am going to look for a ridge defense here. A ridge defense is effectively a place where the enemy has to come over the ridge to shoot at you, and of course, before they come over that ridge, you can prep. Your guys can load their crossbow and basically be waiting for them, right? This is simply a good tactic to use, and we're going to use that here. Again, theoretically, we should not win this battle. If you auto-resolve this battle in your own game, you lose, right? It's 250 Tier 6 units and 250 Tier 5 units against your 250 Tier 5 units. You're just not going to win that battle in an auto-resolve. Any monkey can figure that out. That said, again, we're going to use tactics. I've got 5 divisions set up this time, and that's because I'm envisioning both a shield wall defense and a square. I want to form a square because of the horse archer's ability to circle, right? We want to try to prevent them from circling us and shooting us from behind, but I'm also going to use divisions in wide fans out here behind the defensive structures to prevent them from comfortably circling us, right? Basically creating a big, wide salient to our flank that makes it difficult for them to surround us. Now, I'm not going to sit at the very, very back of the map. That would be optimal strategy, but it's also sort of cheese. Depends on who you ask. At no point in human history, when the Mongols were invading, did somebody just go to the back of the map and say, well, you know, surround us now, Genghis Khan. Obviously, there is no back of the map in real life. But for this instance here, we will fight away from the edges of the back of the map. That way, if the enemy does want to circle us, they have the ability to do so. At least I think we're at the sort of we're off the margins of the map. I think the enemy will be able to circle us here. All right, so you see the 1st and the 2nd division, we have less sharpshooters, right? I've done that because these are going to be our defensive units. I'm pulling them back because I want this ridge here that we're running over now. This is going to be the line that we defend, right? I'm going to have one of these guys. Oh, shit, we are at the edge of the map. Well, we're just going to roll with this. It is an advantage, but maybe that'll just make this massacre even more complete. I don't know for sure, actually, if this is going to work. I will film losses if I have to reshoot these. We'll do that. But I'm pretty confident with this combination of tactics. Well, especially confident that we're near the edge of the map. They're not going to be able to surround us. Once they come over this ridge, they're going to be met with an immolating hail of bolts. In fact, the destruction's already started. And again, this is Khan's guards and the Keshig, I think it's called. So maybe someone else has a better pronunciation of it, but it's their Tier 5 horse archer, right? These guys are mobile. They have 2 quivers of arrows. They're going to be able to shoot longer than us, so if we are going to win this battle at some point, we're going to have to attack in melee. Yeah, we are at the edge of the map. That's okay. Okay, so we're forming a shield wall, right? One of the divisions is in a shield wall. This other division here is right up close to the enemy, so they're pounding them with fucking point-blank bolts. Those guys are doing massive damage, and the enemy's sort of perplexed by our shield wall. You see some of their troops are running into it. Undoubtedly, some of their units are shooting at it. We will have those guys sort of charge into battle here, sort of get in the way of the enemy and sort of cause carnage within their ranks. The square down here, you can see some of those guys are shooting, but again, that's designed to absorb arrows and be something sort of in the way, like a speed bump in the way of their horse archer group. I'm actually going to continue to drag them here. I want them on this side of the ridge. You see the ridge up there. There's a lot of their horse archers that are behind that ridge. They can't shoot at us. And so what we've effectively done here with our tactic is divide the enemy, right? About half of their horse archers can't shoot, while all or almost all of our sharpshooters can shoot, right? And now they have just a thick mass of static, not moving horse archers standing there. This is a massacre, right? This is, you can just tell from the setup that they have sort of pinned themselves onto this ridge, and you can see the death spam, right? It's probably 70-80% green. It's not entirely green. They're still scoring kills, of course. You know, they have fucking 300 guys or something like that shooting arrows at us. But we're also destroying this force. Now they've destroyed our square there. Our square dissolved, so I formed our other division into a square. We still have these two large divisions just absolutely immolating everything in sight. So bad that the horse archers that were on this side of the ridge are just vaporized. They're gone, right? The guys on the other side of the ridge are still sort of shooting, but look how many of these guys over here just can't even shoot. They're jammed up on their own guys. There's probably riderless horses in their way, and they're having a fit, just trying to get line of sight, just trying to square our guys up for a shot here. I'll make a few bad shots here, but the purpose of this, of course, is not to demonstrate you know, my incapacity to shoot. Is strictly the tactical side of it. All right, so we're going to start to close in for the kill here. We want to try to pin these guys down now. So I have one division moving up in shield wall and another moving up to be closer for more you know, higher damage point blank. Now those guys are going to suffer some. Oh shit! I'm trying to get. I don't want to get killed here. Those guys are going to suffer some as they move up, but I think the maneuvering is going to be worth it, right? They might lose 15 or 20 guys, and once they're within point-blank range, they're going to be able to do destructive things. Now, we're also at this stage running low on bolts, and so it's time to start moving up our archers here, our crossbowmen, so that they can shoot. Or, excuse me, so that they can attack in melee. These guys really want to kill me. They're fucking chasing after me. Yeah, see, most of our crossbowmen are just standing there, so it's time to send these guys in, right? We will send them in wide shield walls, and we're basically hemming them in the same way like prairie dogs would hem in, you know, a bunch of cattle that they were rousing up. Now I've got these guys charging so that they can swing their swords, and sharpshooters have decent melee ability, right? Anybody who's come, well, that guy got ragdolled. Anybody who's come sort of face to face with the sharpshooter knows that they swing a pretty decent weapon. And of course their shield blocks a lot of attacks, right? It's actually pretty annoying how much they block. So the enemy's sort of spread out here at this stage. It's a little better situation for them. And not surprisingly, most of the units that are left are Consguards. When you see the death spam, almost every time it's Consguards, Khazait's Consguard, Khazait's Consguard. That said, the enemy's in a really bad spot here, right? Maybe they have 60 or 80 Consguards left, and we have probably 200, maybe 250 sharpshooters. Now, most of our guys are out of ammo, and what we're going to try to do to effectively mitigate their speed, mitigate their arrow effect, is stay close to each other, right? We've got just this huge tranche of crossbowmen now that are in a giant packed mass. That makes it harder for them to sort of pick off. That guy just suicided, right? He ran right into the midst of them. They have no chance doing that. In fact, the game has consolidated my units because my leader died, right? It'll frequently do that. The AI is like, I don't know why you have 5 divisions. It obviously doesn't understand the tactics that we're displaying here. And so we now basically have one thick division. I'm going to get killed here. The Consguards are actually just as deadly with their glaive, but it's not going to matter against all of these guys with their barn doors held up. They're going to score some kills. They're going to trample some guys, but against such a large number of sharpshooters, they're just not going to be able to win this battle. I might be doing more damage than good riding around on my horse. I think it's also interesting that the sharpshooters do ride a horse pretty well. A lot of the high-level units ride a horse pretty well. And you know what? I'm actually going to end this episode right here. Look at the power bar, friends. The power bar says it all, right? We have 200 and something sharpshooters, and the enemy has like 15 guys that are still left. The rest have either been killed or routed. So we're going to call this experiment a success as well. All right, and just like before against Battanian Fianchamps, let's make it max level difficulty, right? The only thing I'm going to do is I'm going to put us on our sort of home field advantage here. No, I want Bogbeth Arch here. And again, we'll go against the Khazait's Consguards, 500 against our 500 sharpshooters. Now, I am going to look for ridges to defend here. That's why I chose this sort of home field advantage. There's lots of hills here that we can sort of hide behind and perform a decline ridge slope strategy. In fact, this over here on the left looks totally destructive. We will be able to pin the enemy against the wall a little bit. And, of course, we're going to be able to use that ridge there to hide our guys until they ride over the ridge, at which point we will be able to obliterate them. The crossbows, you know, they have the ability to run with their bolt loaded so that as soon as they stop, they just fire instantly. And this is a significant advantage when it comes to what you would consider initiative for archers. Initiative is when two guys are about to shoot each other. It's like a quick draw, and whoever shoots first often is the victor, right? Especially up close. All right, so a giant 4th division, that's going to be our main linchpin of this battle. The 5th and 6th, they're smaller divisions, but we will use them as sort of auxiliary lines. And the 1st and 2nd, just like the previous example, we're going to use as defense. Now look at this ridge here. This ridge is absolutely perfect. The enemy's not going to be able to shoot us until they get over where I position those troops. And when they do, they're going to face an absolutely withering spray of sharpshooter bolts. That ridge up there actually looks perfect for a Division 2, so we're going to position the 5th up there. I understand that I'm using the edges of the map here, and some people might be saying, well, that's your cheese, it's cheesing. But we're facing 500 of the best units in the game. By all accounts, people just absolutely adore the Consguards, and we're going to use nothing but tier 5 units, right? This is a battle we should lose. Again, we should lose every time. If you auto-resolve this, you're going to lose every time. But we're going to use some tactics here. We're going to use this ridge. And I think if we can pin them on those canyon walls up there, we can definitely win this battle. Look at that ridge that we can defend. As soon as they come over, we say, give them hell. And 500 bolts go flying through the enemy, right? Armor or not, it's going to go right through these fucking Consguards. And the death spam says it all, right? Every kill so far has been on our side. They just got their first kill. Now it's time to pressure these guys, right? What I can do is I can form shield walls right at the edge of this ridge. Why at the edge of the ridge? I don't want to run over the ridge and basically allow them to shoot us without support. So we're going to run right to the edge of the ridge and hold that defense. It's part of like a peekaboo ridge defense. I have lots and lots of tactical examples on our channel about that, and I'm probably going to do an entire episode showcasing this nasty tactic. And this is even worse massacre than I thought. The enemy has sort of pressed themselves against the wall, but our 5th division is up there cutting off their surrounding attempt. This is astonishing. It's a total massacre. The enemy's probably, I can't see them very well through the trees there, but they are probably jammed up on each other, and it's a fucking fish in a barrel situation. Our guys are absolutely having the day of their life. All these wicked Consguards that have scored so many kills on them over the years in battles left and right. In fact, we're suffering more damage from all their unhorsed horses that, you know, riderless horses that are crashing through us than the actual Consguards. It's almost like we've paralyzed the enemy here. We're going to pull another division around here at the bottom just to finish this battle off. But this battle is already over. This is Consguards completely decimated here by sharpshooters. Admittedly, you know, we are using the fact that they can't circle us here, but this surprises even my expectations of what we could pull off. I mean, you hardly even see a kill. In fact, you see that Karahan? That's their horses killing our guys. Their own Karahan is killed a sharpshooter. That's their horses accidentally trampling us as they run with no rider. That's amazing. They must have gotten 10 kills from their Karkin there. There's another one. That's hilarious. All their horses streaming off the battlefield is the only damage that they're actually doing to us. So now we're moving our shield walls in here for the absolute kill. But this was an incredible destructive attack here. And you can see how bad a shape they're in. They're completely trapped on this hillside. Our guys are shooting up in there, you know, like a total, having a total field day. They're scoring a few kills here, and their riderless horses are scoring a few kills. But this was a destructive, embarrassing loss for the Consguards. I don't know, maybe we lost 100 in this battle. We still have most of our units. Get out of here, Consguards. Bring more next time. That was a lot of fun. And we didn't even lose 100 guys, and we massacred 500 Consguards. Get out of here, you fucking wussies. Garbage units. Admittedly, right, Consguards played in a better way than that would have destroyed us. But there you have it. Sharpshooters mowing down Consguards. All right, so we've done Consguards, we've done Battanian Fiend Champs. What else? Let's do, I've reloaded this. Let's do some Cataphracts, right? Let's do some elite Cataphracts against us here. The Imperial Tier 6 Noble Knight. And I have a feeling if I can use like a ring defense combined with a square, we can seriously slow down their forces. Pardon me here, I gotta adjust these things here so we get 500 sharpshooters here, and we'll use a nice neutral map, right? We'll use this valley, theoretically a valley that should favor heavy horse. We're not gonna give them any disadvantages here, but again, I think we'll form a ring defense. Might even form a concentric ring defense, just like castles are designed to defend. I might even have two different rings here with a belt of sharpshooters inside the ring and then a belt of sharpshooters outside the ring, right? One of the things you can do with sharpshooters is you can position them on an island by themselves. And if the enemy, of course, doesn't attack them, they'll be able to fire away unimpeded. And if they do attack them, you simply square, right? Again, highlighting the incredible versatility of this unit. All right, so 1, 2, 3, 4. Yeah, we'll do these 5 divisions: 1st, 2nd, 4th, 5th, 6th. Whoops, I got this guy moving about as slow as molasses, and I don't have a horse to jump. I will probably use the RTS mod here just to show you a little bit easier what I'm going to attempt to do here. All right, so a nice big concentric ring, and we're going to form an outer ring as well, right? Just like a castle defense, we're going to have 2 rings here. That's going to slow down enemy heavy cav that's trying to charge us. And slow down heavy cav is dead heavy cav, right? Your archers are going to obliterate them, shoot them with 5,000 arrows, or their crossbowmen in this case. And of course, those dead horses then become an impediment to the enemy as well. All right, let me show you this from above here. So that's the outer ring, and then the inner ring will be inside that, and then towards the back, we will have a tranche of these, here, I'll put this guy in the middle. We will have a tranche of these crossbowmen as well. Now, the RBM mod, I think, is specifically made by people who are frustrated with the weakness of cavalry. In real life, this should not be something you could win. But I think we're going to be able to pull this off. Look at the death spams already highly in our favor. Now, they sent a few heavy horse over to attack our other crossbows, but I'm not going to form them into a square unless they're really being mauled. You can see our double concentric ring here is slowing the enemy down. Now on the far side there, those crossbowmen are free. We're going to put them a little astride the enemy and give them some elevation here. But the death spam is incredibly green, right? It's massive death spam for us. The horses here are sort of wrapping around us, but a lot of our crossbowmen are free, and a good many of them are just, you know, they're just having a field day. Meanwhile, our crossbows there across the valley are just absolutely firing away. I have 1 crossbow division in a square just to sort of give us a defensive protection at the front of this ring. And look at the death spam, right? This is actually astonishing, even what I expected here. This is... I don't know. What is this? 80 or 90% death spam in our favor against, look at the death spam. It's Imperial Elite Cataphract, right? We don't have any, there's no magic to this. I'm not like trying to pull a fast one over you guys. These are strictly for demonstration purposes to show you the incredible power of what I consider underrated units. Now look at how many horses are running away. There's so many horses running away, I can't tell what the fuck's happening here. In fact, they're all running the same direction that their horses are, trying to flee this massacre. So just like the Consguard's battle here, we absolutely devastated 500 elite cataphracts here with our crossbow. These guys over here were virtually untouched this whole battle. And most of our guys survived again, right? This is another astonishing, destructive victory for these sharpshooters. Now, I know some of you out there are scoffing when you see that this is on my underrated troops playlist. Admittedly, some people probably love their sharpshooters and don't consider them underrated. But I've seen lots of people sort of say they're weak and you know, they don't have a lot of value. And of course, compared to these other elite armies, that they have you know, no chance with their sharpshooters. Hopefully I can open some eyes to the destructive power these guys have. Again, it's not like I'm using a cheat here. These are custom battles. Our companions aren't giving them any advantages. This is strictly tactics and a very potent unit used to their highest capacity. So let's push the envelope here, right? Let's make it even harder. Let's give them fully 100 more, actually even more than 100 units than ours. And again, we'll give them elite cataphract. So now we're outnumbered by like 30%. A tier 6 unit outnumbering us by 30%, and we will take them on, you know, with our 440 or so sharpshooters. I thought this ring defense would work, but it actually worked unbelievably well. Of course, we've done entire episodes focused on ring-centric defenses. Generally, I think static positions are not good positions, but in this case, it's worked beautifully well. And part of the reason is because the AI doesn't do much dynamically. They're not separating their units. They're coming in a big, solid tranche all together. If you came in, especially with archers, and flanked the shit out of these guys, combining it with cav, you would devastate them, right? In fact, I think we will probably try that battle. We will probably try either the Aserai or perhaps the sharpshooters using more dynamic units. We'll probably do like a Battanian Fiend Champs against the Banner Knights and the sharpshooters together, and see how destructive that combination can be. All right, so the concentric ring again with these guys back towards the rear. And the idea is you slow down the enemy, and then once they're slowed, all these guys at the back are just unloading on them, right? And you see the enemy comes in. They got, it looks like a handful of kills on the charge. Not very many, right? A few guys got speared in the face. But the death spam, again, is wildly in our favor. Even though we're hugely outnumbered here, they're jamming up on our they're jamming up on our square, and they're being shot off their mounts. Of course, we have this division on the edge here that's completely free. They are just firing away. It's about 130, 120 guys that are completely protected in this battle. The square, now that they're past it, we're going to move it to the back of the formation again and let these guys open fire as well. Right? Even the guys in the concentric ring that are being attacked by cav are still shooting. A lot of those guys are doing good damage, but it's these two separate units that are highly protected that are doing most of the killing. Right? You see them sort of infatuated with the square, and they're charging through the middle, and it's a massive amount, right? This is going to take a little longer to whittle all these cavalry down, but they're doing it, right? These guys here are absolutely obliterating everything in sight. They're unmolested, and they are just firing deadly bolts. And critically, they're up close, right? The closer you are with your ranged units, the more damage they do. In this case, it's the best of both worlds. The enemy's moving slower, and they're being shot at almost point blank by dozens of sharpshooters. And not surprisingly, it's a massacre still. So this is astonishing. This is being outnumbered 30% by a cataphract, and they are heading for the fucking hills. Right, they're out of here. This battle is another destructive victory. Now, I know, like I said before, the people that made the RBM mod, other players, are frustrated with how weak cavalry is. And admittedly, if this was an RBM mod, maybe we'll do that someday. I think they would have waxed our ass here, right? They would have done major damage on their charge, and our bolts wouldn't have done nearly this much damage. And again, look at how destructive that is, right? 400 guys. We lost 40, and we sent this 500 and something packing. That's amazing. All right, so let's play around a little bit here with mixed units. This time we will add some Banner Knights. So theoretically, this is a fair fight. It's 500 against 500, and even though we have less Banner Knights than they have Fiend Champs, our armies are roughly the same strength. The enemy has a slight advantage in that they have more tier 6 units, but I don't think that's going to matter at all. So in this situation, right, we're going to have 2 divisions of cavalry, and I think 3 is fine. We will have 3 divisions of crossbow, and what that'll allow us to do is to do some dynamic things with these sharpshooters. At the same time, charge the enemy from multiple directions with this heavy cav. I think heavy cav is an episode I need to do altogether, like a separate series on heavy cav, because the way to use heavy cav in Bannerlord is not really the way that a lot of people would kind of assume is the way to attack with them, right? One of the unfortunate realities is that when you send heavy cav in against the enemy, they don't get a lot of kills with their charge, right? They don't perfectly spear guys in the face and cause massive damage with that charge. What it's actually better for is knocking the enemy around, disrupting them, interrupting them, causing their units to sort of chase after your cav that's running through them. That's much more valuable than the effect of them actually killing. I suspect in this battle that 60 or 70, maybe even 80% of the kills will be by our sharpshooters and not by the Banner Knights. Even though the Banner Knights are a higher tiered unit, tier 6, charging archers, I bet most of our kills, I mean, we shall see, but I bet most of our kills in this challenge will be these sharpshooters. In other words, the Banner Knights are going to be knocking the enemy around and sort of causing carnage and delaying them and distracting them, but I bet most of the kills here are crossbow. All right, so optimal strategy here, I think, is to attack the enemy from multiple flanks. That way they can't concentrate their fire on you, right? You can see we're going to run right through the side of the enemy here. And what I'm going to do with these guys, basically, is run them through in sort of concentrated groups. Now, this is really interesting. They are chasing this cav division. This is not quite what I wanted to see here. How fascinating. It's like the enemy has determined that they are the priority here. So, I think what we will do is do a little editing to speed this up. All right, so we'll speed this portion up here in the after editing. I'm narrating over the top of my previous audio. The Britannian Fiend Champs here, like rabid dogs. It's actually a really funny looking instance where this archer tranche of 500 guys is chasing after heavy cav. Unfortunately, that's extraordinarily unrealistic. That would never happen in actual medieval battles. They would do the opposite. Archers would run from cavalry. They would look for a defensive spot. They wouldn't chase after them like they were the strongest units. But I think in this situation, the Britannian Fiend Champs are simply trying to close because they know if they can wipe out a lot of our heavy horse here early in this battle, that they have a better chance to win. It's a very odd-looking battle. Now we can finally set up here. All right, so we've got our Britannian Fiend Champs in lines spraying arrows. Excuse me, we've got our Valandian sharpshooters here in lines spraying the enemy with arrows. And now we're going to do effectively offset charges here with our cav. I don't actually want our cav running into each other. This is a critical point because if they run into each other, they will lose all momentum and sort of slow down each other. So I'm going to sort of move one down to one side and the other to the other side, right? You don't want, the last thing you want in a battle like this is for your cavalry to be slowed down. That's the easiest way to kill cav, and of course that's also the easiest way for you to get your own cav killed. So I'm going to run the cav the heavy cav divisions, these Banner Knights, from one end of their line to the other, just trying to cause the maximum amount of sort of these guys being knocked around. You can see I'm manually telling them form a line, like kind of directly down the line of the Battanians, and all I want them doing is running back and forth, causing charge damage, knocking them around. You see all these guys obviously can't shoot. They got a big heavy horse knocking them around. Meanwhile, our sharpshooters, like I predicted, are doing massive damage. So again, trying to just sort of micromanage our cav here so that we can run around the edges of them without running into each other with our horses. And meanwhile, our sharpshooters are scoring, as predicted, the majority of the kills. Our cav, again, running back and forth. We're basically just trying to permanently disrupt. And you can see the Battanian Fiends are running around with their swords. Some guys are still shooting, but a lot of them are literally just running around. And while they're doing that, they're getting smoked with sharpshooter arrows, right? You can see the Banner Knights are holding their shields up. We're just running them through in defense. And that's causing chaos within the Battanian Fiend Champs lines, at which point our sharpshooters are doing major damage. Now you notice when they got to the end of the line here on the left, they're getting shot in the back, right? Because the enemy at the far end of the right end of their line there, all those guys are now free of interruption and they're free to shoot at our guys, right? That illustrates the danger of cavalry to archers. You effectively want your guys running back and forth, facing the enemy with their shields. And in this case, now we're just bringing our crossbowmen up here to finish this battle. These guys may not even be out of ammo. I've got one group on the side here flanking. But we're just going to eat them up like a big snake. This battle is over. We'll do a little after editing to speed up that section at the beginning there where they were running around chasing our guys there for 4 minutes. That was a kind of funny moment. Archers chasing after cavalry. This is not a thing, but it was in this battle here. And you can see this is just a total massacre. Battanian Fiend Champs are running for the hills right there. These guys are all terrified. This battle is over. So I think now also we will try the other side of this, right? We will try the hardest difficulty. In other words, Banner Knights and Sharpshooters against all Battanian Fiend Champs, right? All Tier 6 units. This supposedly lethal, unbeatable Battanian Fiend, right? Fiend Champ, everybody just loves them. They crush it with their two-handed sword. They shoot the fuck out of people with their bows. Let's whip their ass here with Banner Knights and with Sharpshooters. Unfortunately, my intended recording of the Battanian Fiend Champs against our Valandian Banner Knights didn't pan out. It evidently recorded it with some errors, but I do have this additional battle here to add to this episode. So the Aserai be interesting. Let's try the Aserai against Valandia here. Let's give them their Tier 5 infantry, the Palace Guard, and the Veteran infantry, and let's also give them Master Archers, right? So this is a quasi sort of like a battle that you would actually see. We'll give them an even mix, not an even mix, but a mix of infantry and archers here. And what we'll do with our side is we will have some champions. We won't actually have Banner Knights, right? We wouldn't want to have an advantage on them by having Banner Knights. They don't have their Tier 6. We will have champions, and we will have our sharpshooters, right? So this is Tier 5 versus Tier 5 in this battle here. Theoretically, equal sides and equal strength units. I think we can massacre them in this instance. Now, I do hear sometimes people are like, well, how come you don't just always run an army of 500 sharpshooters? Well, first, it's boring, right? You can do a lot more interesting things if you have the 3 or 4 main types of units in Bannerlord. But the other reason is quite honestly, like the cookie cutter effect. If you only have archers, there are certain situations where you're just not going to do as well as if you have a bunch of infantry, if you have some cav. I think mixed armies are usually superior to armies that strictly have one type of units. Even people who are like, well, I've got 500 cons guards. I suspect that if I had an army of 300 cons guards or 200 cons guards, and then 100 of the top archer from Khazate and 100 of their top infantry, that I could maul armies of 500 cons guards. I don't know for sure. Maybe someday we'll have that with Bannerlord through a mod or whatever. But that is what I think would be the case, simply because of your ability to use tactics with those multiple units would exceed the value of the cons guards alone. I mean, that is effectively what this episode is all about. In this case here, the sharpshooter is one of the most versatile units in the game. They can be used offensively, they can be used in melee, they can be used highly in defensive mode, in shield wall, in squares, and of course you can definitely flank, kite, and do all the other stuff with sharpshooters. All right, so we're going to spread our archers out here in a nice open ring, as you've seen me do before. We can do a little bit of kiting here, and we have our cavalry to sort of run through and attack the enemy, especially their archers, at opportune moments, right? We're not going to just barrel in like a lot of people do with cavalry. We'll be using them more as a support role. Unfortunately, the way that Bannerlord is designed, heavy cav is not just this god unit that just crushes everything in sight. There are some people I know who want it to be like that, and that's just not the reality. You know, you can complain to Tail Worlds, or you feel free to download the RBM mod, which I think wildly overpowers cavalry, but that's also historically accurate, right? It just unbalances the game. It makes heavy cav far and away the best in the game, and of course, you know, guys are going to chime in and say, "Hey, get the pike edition for RBM." That certainly makes things more fair. And that's totally fine. But in vanilla Bannerlord, which is what most players play, whether they're on a console or something else, this is what they're dealing with. Now, in this instance, I'm actually just manipulating their group with our cav. I'm not attacking. I'm just sort of threatening them with our cav. And what it's doing is it's getting the enemy to sort of turn their big formation like a top, right? And we're spinning it by manipulating it with our cav here. Now, we will do some charging. We will send our guys in here and do some damage. But heavy cav just charged right in against tier 5 infantry really takes a beating, right? The palace guards are swinging their two-handed axes, killing your guys, and it doesn't work as well as you might think it would. Now, their archers are exposed here, right? So we'll run this cav line on the left right through their forces. Meanwhile, our sharpshooters are doing major damage, right? Now look at the death spam, right? The Palace Guard is laying waste to a lot of our heavy horse. Even though these are banner knights, or, well, they're not banner knights. Even though these are champions, these are heavily armored knights, they're still being mauled by these Palace Guards. This is the point that I was making earlier, that heavy cav is pretty vulnerable if they're held up, if they're slow, if they're kind of moving slowly next to elite troops, right? They get their asses kicked. And again, most of the death spam here is our sharpshooters laying waste to the enemy. I do a little kiting here. There are 162 infantries kind of getting close to one of our divisions, so we can easily move these guys back. We've got a cav division coming behind the archers here. You can already tell this battle is a total massacre. Just like the battle against the Britannian Fiends and Fiend Champs, by interrupting them and then doing damage with our sharpshooters at range, we have really obliterated the enemy forces here, right? Their archers are completely skewered. Their infantry looks like it's routing now too. I was sending up a unit in square here just to distract them, but it doesn't even look like we need to, right? This battle was so decisive, using tier 5 cav and sharpshooters here against the Aserai, that this battle actually is already over. And just like some of the other incredibly dominant battles, you know, again, we have like 85% of our troops on the field, right? 90% of our troops are still up, right? 450 out of 500. This is an astonishing rout victory for us again. So let me know what you thought of this little series. This series here is just a bunch of exhibition videos, primarily pumping up, right, this Valandian sharpshooter unit. These guys are amazing. This is part 2 of this series here on the sharpshooters. And I may cover other units that I think are sort of underrated. You might love them. Admittedly, some of these units are probably well loved by people who've discovered them, but not everybody. So let me know what you think of this, friends. Let me know what you think of these series. Please like and subscribe and all that kind of good stuff. And I will talk to you guys next time.